In March of 2020, the modded Smash community saw the release of Project Plus 2.0, a massive update to the premier Super Smash Bros. Mod, changing the entire cast and adding the first fully custom PM character, Knuckles. After 2 years of online and in-person events, a tier list was created to show the state of the P+ metagame. It's been 3 years since then, and over the past 3 years since the previous tier list, the competitive landscape has changed drastically. New, dominating forces have taken over the tournament scene, a major new balance patch released in the form of Project Plus V 3.0, and despite any efforts to stop us, there have been tons of new tournaments and players entering the game from all over the world. This tier list, led by the team at Plus side, aims to reflect those new shifts in the community. We took a slightly different approach than before to ensure more members of the scene shared their voice. Without further ado, here's the list. Inspired by the great community efforts put together by the most recent Melee and Ultimate tier lists, we opted to invite every ranked player from the most recent PM rank to submit a ballot. This includes the international players from last year's PM rank EU and PM rank AUS. Keen-eyed followers of the P+ scene will remember there was also a planned PM rank Japan that year as well, which unfortunately was not able to be fully completed. Not wanting to leave their scene behind, we invited 10 Project Plus players from Japan, selected by their community members, to participate as well. Of the 90 players contacted, 44 players submitted a completed tier list. 2 players submitted tier lists for Project M version 3.6, which unfortunately could not be used, resulting in 42 lists used in our dataset. Let's take a look at some of these placements. A fourth unique number 1 has been crowned with Project Plus, Lucario. While always considered as a strong character, other characters were either more prevalent in the metagame or easier to succeed with. However, with many of his peers being brought down a peg by Project Plus V 3.0, and Lucario not receiving as many changes by comparison, the public perception of Lucario has increased significantly. A whopping 20 players who submitted ballots placed Lucario as the best character in the game, with even more slotting him in at number 2. This view isn't misguided either. Being the only character in the game with his unique magic series, on top of very good fram data, disjointed moves, and exceptional kill power, Lucario is a force to be reckoned with. While most of his representation comes in the form of number 1 play as Sipmaster's character lineup, the national breakout of Trey and Essy's recent usage of the character indicates we're going to be seeing a lot more of the Aura Dog in the near future. Yoshi has had occasional representatives since being added to the game in Project M 3.0, ranging from Burnt Socks, I Heart Love Tap, and Wanpy in the early days to more modern threats like Triforce, Tramp Stamp, and Moist. Despite having semi-consistent representation, it wasn't until New Jersey's Shiny Zubat put his full effort into the game, leading to a 2024 resume packed with enough wins to get him ranked at number 2 on PM Rank 2024, that people started respecting what Yoshi brings to the table. Up until now, Yoshi was often overlooked in the meta, with previous tier placements often in the bottom 15 of every list he's been ranked on, his most recent placement being 38th on the 2022 official tier list. Outside of a massive buff to dash grab, as well as some functionality added to egg roll, a lot of what makes Yoshi so intimidating has largely been present for the entirety of his lifespan. His double jump armor allows him to power through moves and deliver unsuspecting reversals, often resulting in players sending themselves into the blast zone before the eye. Smash attacks hit hard, sending at angles that make recovering quite difficult for some characters, while also occasionally shifting his hurt box to provide defensive utility. His shield is uniquely immune to shield pokes, while retaining the ability to be jumped out of, a major weakness of his in Melee. Eggs are one of the most lethal projectiles in the game, staying active until they hit the ground or a target, and exploding on hit, which makes clanking them extremely difficult or even impossible for some characters. The buff to his dash grab that he got in P+ 2.0 expanded the potency of his grab game, which empowered his devastating up throw and down throw combos to blow up his opponents if fortunate enough to get caught. Yoshi's meteoric rise up the tier list to 18th, his highest placement to date, may be a sign of things to come, as everyone's favorite green dinosaur still has plenty left to prove. Towards the end of the 3.6 meta, it was widely known that Snake was one of the best characters in that game, placing 12th on the final official 3.6 tier list. When Project Plus toned down some of the more egregious aspects of his kit, such as removing the reverse hit of down tilt, decreasing the power of grenade and C4, shrinking up specials hitboxes, and toning down his down air as a whole, many in the early days of Project Plus's meta were quick to write off Snake as a low tier. The absence of flip and flashing fire in the greater Project Plus scene didn't do much to help Snake's case, and so Snake ended up placing 34th on the last tier list, a drop of 22 spots overall. Recently, however, Snake has been seeing increasingly higher placements in the main stage again, with Soul Officer leading the charge of the new wave of Snakes, placing 34th on PM Rank 2024. Others, such as I Like Pizza 107 and the old school snakes MBZY and Dank, have also demonstrated at events since the last tier list that Snake is still more than capable of taking names from the best to the best. While the dominant grip that Snake had on 3.6 meta might not happen again, and the character's placement in this recent community tier list is reflective of the work that Soul Officer and others have put in to show his relevance in the meta. Historically, Kirby has not had many high-level representatives outside of a few reclusive players like Ghidorah, SSK, and Eon, who didn't really attend a high number of events even when active. This lack of exposure, paired with being the second lightest character in the game and having some unimpressive attributes, led many to regard Kirby among the bottom of the barrel for most of Project M's lifespan. P Plus 2.0, however, saw a number of major changes to Kirby's kit, including an increase to his run speed, throw game potency, particularly the way forward throw combos now, and combo game with buffs to forward air, up smash, nair, up tilt, and down B's new functionality, giving Kirby all new tools to push advantage with. These changes all seem to be an effective way to make Kirby more meta relevant, but these improvements did not immediately yield results. A lack of representatives continued to be the major obstacle preventing Kirby from seeing sustained success, but nonetheless, Kirby climbed to 35th on the 2022 official P Plus tier list, up from 41st on the last official 3.6 tier list. Perception around the character shifted when PM ranked 2024's number 17 player Av committed fully to the character, dropping Lucas entirely, as well as when PM ranked 2024's number 36 player Shenanigans left Tennessee to make appearances at multiple PM rank events, using Kirby to take down established dominant players using throw mix-ups, hard read punishes, carefully placed back airs, and a whole lot of crouching. These players showed off what Kirby is capable of when pushed to his limits. His new placement, solid in the mid-tier at 22nd, is the payoff of all the work they put in to get Kirby back into the spotlight, and hopefully an indication of future upward trajectory. The Ice Climbers were a staple of high-level play at the end of 3.6 metagame, a trend which continued through P Plus 2.0, featuring 2 players in the top 10 of 2023 PM rank. Ice Climbers were ranked 13th in the last official tier list, published in 2022, but by the end of 2023, many players were arguing that Ice Climbers may be top 5, or even top 1. This meteoric rise would come to a screeching halt when P Plus 3.0 delivered a handful of nerfs to the character to rein in their more egregious options. The most significant of those changes was forward air being converted from a spike to a meteor. Now, instead of losing a stock at 30% to any grab near the ledge, players who can meteor cancel effectively find themselves reliably surviving much longer. Another nerf, occurring in tandem with the forward air change, is the reduction in the distance at which Nana begins forward throwing instead of up throwing while on stage. This effectively halves the distance at which Ice Climbers can execute a handoff, which reduces their guaranteed damage off of the grab, and forces them to explore a more traditional punish tree. An additional change was made to their down throw, which has led to a reduction in the efficacy of certain matchup-defining chain grabs on characters like Lucas, Sonic, Meta Knight, and others. Additionally, this change also led to a slight downgrade in their punish game across the board, as the increased knockback growth allows opponents to get out of combos sooner with proper DI. While 32nd is the lowest Ice Climbers have been since the 2014 tier list, as players begin experimenting and refining their approach to the character and begin reinventing the Ice Climbers metagame, they'll hopefully be able to climb their way out of the dregs of the low tiers. First added in Project M 3.0, Mewtwo is instantly meta-defining, with his game-breaking tools and obscene kill power. In those early years, he found his home with the best of the best in Mewtwo King, Emu Killer, and Frozen, and would go on to be labeled a god-tier character at the end of 3.02. While his most ignorant option in Hover Out of Teleport was removed in 3.5, Mewtwo's representation stayed strong through the 3.6 era with Frozen, the 2-time top 10 Violet, and later Casino Wolf and Whiffy Cat. However, the COVID years saw both a slew of nerfs from his 3.6 iteration and a dramatic drop-off in representation. Since our return from quarantine, Mewtwo's sole appearances in the top 50 have been one of Pikmon's perennial tertiary characters. Time and time again, we have seen a lack of representation coincide with declining opinions of a character's strength, and in this regard, it appears as though Mewtwo's drought is finally catching up to him. After yet another top 5 placement on the 2022 community tier list, the player base is beginning to question his historical precedent of top-tier strength. Ask around, and most will tell you he still has strong tools. Hover cancel aerials and an omnidirectional actionable teleport are nothing to scoff at, but a new prevailing sentiment is taking shape. A view that takes into account his big hurt box, his slow ground speed, and his staggering technical difficulty, concluding that he might not be the dominant force that he once was. Perhaps this new vision is correct, or perhaps Mewtwo is a sleeping giant primed for a resurgence. only time will tell. Zero Suit Samus has long occupied a strange place in the Project M metagame. Historically considered somewhere between mid and high tier, she has nonetheless had consistent high-level representation in the likes of Jason Waterfalls, Ada, and Blank. That was until a stark drop-off in 2019, where she was left off of PM rank entirely. But despite this quiet spell for the character, many took notice of the fact that she'd escaped the swing of the nerf hammer coming into P+. During quarantine, she saw a shadowy rise in popularity among the reticent lords of NYNJ, spearheaded by the all-time great Malachi and relative newcomer Stengo. Upon the lifting of quarantine, these two utilized her top-tier attributes to great success, and she quickly became one of the most prevalent meta characters of the 2.x era, being placed top 2 on the 2022 edition of the community tier list. This momentum rolled over in 2023, where she peaked at 6 representatives on PM rank, with many players picking her up as a secondary, and then, in 2024, that number dropped all the way to 0. All at once, her strongest reps either quit the game or dropped her as a secondary. This coincided with P+ 3.0, which delivered unto her a bevy of hard-hitting nerfs. Her hitbox size was increased, her weight took a hefty hit, and her most powerful options in bair, up air, and down smash were all toned down. But in some ways, we've seen this story before. In 2019, CSS had no players and only nerfs to show for it. 2024 looked much the same. Back then, all she needed was the backing of the game's premier talents. It certainly feels as though she doesn't have that same motion today, but who's to say? Maybe her next transformative player is right around the corner. For the first time in Project M history, Sonic has fallen down the tier list. His peak at number 4 on 2022's iteration came at a time where the character was both very strong, despite his nerfs in P+ V2.0, as well as one of his strongest periods of results throughout the game's history. The two players leading the charge on modern Sonic, Sitmasta and Motobug, haven't deviated much from them. They both hit their all-time highs on PM rank at number 1 and number 26 respectively, still placing highly and running circles around their competition. The switch up in placement on this list comes more from the character's perceived strength as opposed to pure results, and alongside his additional nerfs in Project Plus version 3.0. With a change to his up throw that still makes it a strong but not as consistent combo tool, the lack of stack stun preventing up throw down air loops, and a huge hit to his recovery, Sonic's the weakest he's ever been. Only falling to number 12 speaks volumes about his previous strength, though. As the fastest character in the game with some amazing moves and his devastating punish game, there's no doubt that Sonic is still very powerful. He's just toned down. Deservedly. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in for more at Plus Side.